to Cellar Dive, episode number 16 of
Brutal Battle. It's been a bit since we did a Cellar Dive. I don't remember when our last one was, but it's been a bit. And we've been pulling a lot from our cellar for episodes because of, the pandemic, as we kind of, I think we covered it in one of our episodes back in like April, May, somewhere in that time, but hey, all time just kind of blends together during this.
Yes, it does.
So we actually were thinking about maybe doing, like, running out and getting beers for, like, another On the Shelf episode or something. But then we were like, you know what? Now's not really the time to be making extra trips places in public because, when we're recording, this is during the worst that the pandemic's been. So we're just taking it seriously, being cautious. And it's not a whole thing where, like, it's necessarily us being overly cautious, because I know some people think about that, but it's more of we're not interested in getting it, passing it on to someone else who could die from it, because I personally would feel terrible if I knew that I did something like that, and I know Rebecca would as well. Yeah. So we're just following the guidelines. So yeah. So that's a good segue into the very first beer, because this brewery we're not patronizing anymore, partially because they don't adhere to the COVID guidelines, and there was actually a blow up on social media about it, and they were fighting with customers and people on social media.
Really distasteful.
It was very ugly, and that paired with a lot of quality control issues that I've been hearing about from that brewery prior to this going on. I'm not interested in supporting that anymore. Because, we haven't bought from this brewery in a while. So the beer that we're having, truly a cellar beer. It's been in our cellar. Well, this has been in the bottle for 4 years now. This is a 2016 beer, and it's from Burley Oak Brewing out of Berlin, Maryland. And it is Dark Matter, which is a sour porter, and it's in a 750 milliliter bottle. And the ABV, does it have the ABV on it? Yes, 6.4%. I remember having this when we were down there and got this bottle and thinking it was a really good sour dark beer, which, not a lot of people do that.
We've had this before.
Yes, we did have it before, but we had it fresh. We haven't had it sitting around in our cellar for 4 years. So it's probably going to be pretty different. We'll see what that difference ends up being. So, and all these cellar beers are in bottles. And this is my pick. So the whole thing with Burley Oak, the quality stuff we did not experience, so I don't know if it's exaggerated what was online, but I had just been hearing that with a lot of their dream beers, which are the ones with like fruited sours with lactose and all sorts of stuff in it, people were showing pictures online, a lot of them exploding a bunch, even when they were kept cold. Also, someone who I trust with this information said that there's been a lot of diacetyl in them as well. So what it's sounding like, and once again, this is just what I'm hearing from some people I consider to be reliable, because we didn't personally experience it. What I've been hearing is that it's more of they're kind of just doing like a turn and burn with these beers, and quality control's kind of out the window. So,
I feel like they're posting all the time, like, can releases.
The can releases,
new release.
Yeah, and that kind of supports my theory that it's kind of just like just keep it going. And as long as people are buying and it's selling out, which I'm sure it is, they're just like, whatever. So it's not a good way to do business, because eventually it's going to catch up with you and, bite you in the ass, because eventually you're not going to have the customers you had before if you keep having issues like that. And also if you fight with people on social media, that's also going to turn people off. The problem is you have to be careful as a business nowadays, especially on the brewery scene, especially during a pandemic, because there are a lot more breweries now. People have a lot more options. And if they find an issue with you, even if it's a small issue, they may be liable to say, you know what, I'm not that interested in these people anymore. I'm going to go over here.
Right.
And we dropped another brewery recently because of problems, and that was actually Union Craft Brewing, who was, we'd said for a while was our favorite Maryland brewery, but we're stepping back from it because there was allegedly an issue with one of the owners sexually harassing staff, and some invading privacy, and the reports are not good. And that person is still receiving money from the proceeds of the beer. So, yeah. So we step back from that, too. So we're always looking for other breweries to support that deserve the money. So Union's out, Burley Oak's out. But we have this Burley Oak beer that we bought when things were going well. Or at least in our minds, things were going well with Burley Oak. So let's check it out. Okay. Sorry for the long stuff in the beginning, but people need to know this stuff about why certain breweries have been talked about on the podcast before, and they're just not anymore. And these are the reasons. And I could get deeper into both of those stories, and maybe we will at some point, but we'll spare everyone for the moment.
We'll move on.
Yeah. So it looks just like a dark beer.
Yeah.
Doesn't really have head to it. Although when I first poured it in the glass, I did see a lot of carbonation coming up from the nucleation point in the bottom of the glass, just in the center. But it's stopped since, actually. So, but yeah, it just looks dark. Smells sour.
It smells really sour.
For me, it doesn't smell really sour. It smells just like regular sour.
There's definitely like a tartness to it.
Yeah, and it's almost there's that lemony tartness to it, but it also smells a little ashy to me. A little oaky maybe as well. Like wood, ash. I get a slight black olive to it.
Yep.
Which I don't like that smell. Hopefully it's not in the flavor, and a little bit like a soy sauce note.
Yeah, I was going to say a little chocolatey.
Yeah, I could get a little chocolatiness as well. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of smells going on in there. Some that I hope don't appear in the flavor, but we'll see.
It's not bad.
Oh, yeah. It's still quite good. Very good.
I mean, it tastes like a sour porter.
Yeah, and that sourness, like it's sour, but it's like low sour.
Yeah, it's very approachable.
And there's a nice like slight chocolatiness on the finish. Mm-hmm. There's a nice slight chocolatiness on the finish. There's also a nice kind of ashiness, like I was saying in the nose, that's kind of there, but it's not super strong. But it smells good and it tastes good, and it's definitely based on the smell. The sourness is a lot lower than the smell was indicating.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean for me personally, I don't know about you.
I think it's kind of equal.
I get that kind of woodiness that I was talking about in the nose.
Mm-hmm.
That comes through in the flavor, and it's good. It's a nice little accent to it. I'm trying to see if I'm actually tasting that black olive I said I was smelling.
I'm not. I definitely got it on the smell, on the nose, but I'm not getting it on the...
There's a little bit of like a soy sauciness on the flavor. Like I said, I was getting in the smell, but yeah, no, it's not that big of a deal. This is good. Mm-hmm. It is quite good. Yeah, it's like a nice malty, but sour, dark beer. Mm-hmm. It's good. That's held up well.
I think we mentioned this beer at some point in the podcast because I had talked about not having a lot of dark sours.
Yeah, I think that was kind of recently. I think it was within 2020 that we talked about it. And then I think that's when I then went down to the basement and pulled it up into the fridge with the intent of having it on at some point.
Oh, okay.
So here, we're finally doing it because I chose it as one of my picks. Okay, so the next one, that was my pick. The next one is one of Rebecca's picks, so you can go ahead and introduce it.
Okay, so my pick is by Maine Beer Company out of Freeport, Maine. It is called Mean Old Tom. It is a stout aged on natural vanilla beans.
ABV and vintage.
2018.
Okay.
6.5%. And it does say drink within 90 days of stamped on.
We're not doing that because we break all the rules.
Yeah, really.
Okay. But it is good to note that because it lets you know the intent of the brewery, and we're breaking the rules. Like, they gave you the information and we're like, look, don't do this. So, like, literally what we're doing right now.
Don't do this.
Yeah, literally what we're doing.
Proceed with caution.
Yeah. Literally what we're doing, Maine Beer Company said, do not do this. Do not do this. So,
I wonder if that's because the vanilla is going to fall out.
I would assume that's probably what's going on with that as a warning. That's my best guess. But, I mean, it could still be good. It's just not what they intended.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. Hopefully it's still good. And this is like one of those 500 milliliter bottles.
I love that size bottle.
Yeah, I like them. I think they're good. It's kind of like the 16-ounce can of the bottle world, you know? Okay, so it looks really dark, obviously. Yeah. It's got a little bit of head sticking around. Larger bubbles, tan in appearance.
So chocolatey. Like, I feel like you get, like, chocolate malt, you get regular milk chocolate, you get dark chocolate. It's just layers of chocolate.
Yeah, I think for me, I pull mostly dark chocolate out of it because there's a decent bitterness that just kind of sticks in the nose. I like that. I feel like I get a little bit of a vanilla on the nose.
Yeah.
Very slight. And I feel like mixing in with that chocolate, I feel like there's a little caramelly note at play, which I like. It smells light, though. Like, flavorful, but light at the same time, especially for a dark beer. It smells really good.
It looks on the thinner side, too.
Well, yeah, because what is it? Is it just, they say stout? Just stout?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, not imperial or anything.
It's a good stout.
Ooh, man. That is tasting very nice right now. It's very easy mouthfeel-wise. Mm-hmm. It just goes down kind of quickly, but it's not a situation where it's watery. Like, it's thin, but it's not watery, and there's a lot of flavor to kind of, I guess, not make how thin it is a problem, I guess I'd say.
I'm getting coffee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do get a very substantial amount of coffee. It's mainly on the back end of each sip. It's like, good, though. The
flavor that's just kind of like hanging around in my mouth is coffee. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good. And it tastes like very like deep roast coffee, like a dark roasted coffee. There's that like dark chocolate in there. There's a decent bitterness on the finish. I do feel like I still taste a little vanilla to it.
Yeah, not as much of vanilla as I would like.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of the vanilla has fallen out over time.
It's
a good beer, though.
It's got a pretty substantial ashiness that carries through each sip all the way, which I'm fine with. I think it goes well with all the other flavors in it. Some people might not be big on that, but this has held up well, in my opinion. For 2 years.
Did we buy this when we were up there?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
We did, yeah. I think we had bought 2 of them when we were there, and we had already consumed one of them relatively fresh after we got it home, and then this is the one that sat in the cellar. Until now. Yeah, that's good. I really like that. So, most likely won't happen, but if anyone from Maine Beer...
I think you have beer on your nose.
Oh, that's possible.
Up higher. There you go.
Yeah. That's water. So, most likely won't happen, but if anyone from Maine Beer hears this, just know that we did not follow the rules on that bottle, but it's tasting very good. So you can tell people we'd recommend this because otherwise the vanilla will fall out a decent amount, but it's still going to be awesome.
Still good beer.
Yeah. So that's our endorsement. Anyway, the next one then is mine, and we're going back to a 750 milliliter bottle. And this is by Tired Hands Brewing up in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. This one is a 2018, so this one is also 2 years in the bottle. And it is their Heavy Gem Virga. It is an ale fermented in oak barrels. And the ABV is not on the bottle.
Oh, really?
Correct. Yep, nope. It must be relatively low, so. Let's pop this open. I'm assuming, when it says ale fermented in oak barrels, I'm assuming it's kind of like a tart saison, tart farmhouse ale type deal, because I know that they do a lot of that.
Right.
And just call it an ale. So yeah, that's what I'm assuming. And the ones I've had from them, I've enjoyed them. So what's it looking like?
Pretty orange. Orangey yellow.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. It is like a pretty orangey yellow. It's very, very clear though. I'm assuming it's probably not as clear when you get to the bottom of the bottle. There's probably some sediment just chilling down there, but it's been upright for 2 years, just kind of sitting. So It's going to be clear on the top. Few bubbles hanging out on the top.
So lemony.
But it's kind of soft.
It is soft, but it's very lemony. And I feel like it's making my mouth salivate smelling it.
Yeah, I could get that. It does.
And that tartness.
It does have a decent, it's got decent funkiness hanging out on there, which I feel like is folding in well with that lemony sourness on the nose.
I'm getting like some floral characteristics.
Yeah. Do you get a little bit of like a pepper note on it too? I get like a slight pepper.
No, I'm not getting that.
Like peppercorn, not like, those vegetable peppers. It smells good.
Like black pepper.
It smells like there should potentially be a kick to it. It does smell kind of saison-y or farmhousey as well.
Super light.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is falling into the tart category. Where the dark matter was sour category, this is tart category. It's definitely got something to build some phlegm over time, but it's approachable. Very approachable.
It almost doesn't have enough flavor for me.
So I think it's got this kind of low-level lemoniness to it. It's got some of that funk at play in there. But it finishes thin and watery.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem. It's like you get a bunch of flavor up front, and then it just kind of finishes like it's not there anymore.
Like you forget that you're drinking a beer.
Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of an acetone type flavor to it, which, is nail polish remover.
Just a little off-putting.
Yeah. So, kind of in the middle on this one. Kind of, yeah, kind of no. I don't know. Yeah. That's all I got on that. I did just take a larger gulp of it to finish what was in my glass, and I got a pretty substantial hit of the oak that it was aged in.
I wasn't getting much of that.
Yeah, when you take a much bigger swig of it, yeah, you get a big hit of the oak, which that was nice. If you could take smaller sips and get more of that would have been better, but yeah. I think it's safe to say that one's bringing up the rear at the moment. Because the other two were definitely a lot better.
So my last pick is an Eclipse beer, which is an imperial stout brewed with honey.
Yes. Yeah. That's how they do all of them. With their
aged in oak barrels.
It's 50/50 brewing.
Yes.
What's the ABV?
11.9.
So this is what they do. They always have them in 22-ounce barrels, 22-ounce bottles. They do the wax top thing, and it's always imperial stout with honey, and then they age them in different barrels. And there are a few that they do something extra to, like there was one that'll have coffee, one will have vanilla, stuff like that. So this one is from 2014, so it's been in the bottle for 6 years, and it is the Heaven Hills barrel-aged version. Now, if people don't know, Heaven Hills barrels are the ones that were popularized by Bourbon County Stout, by Goose Island. So you could say that Heaven Hills barrels were the originals involved in popularizing imperial stouts that are barrel-aged. So,
okay, cool.
So a lot of people, when they hear Heaven Hills, if they know kind of, the history of barrel-aged beers, are like, oh, Heaven Hill barrels, aha. So we'll see if it's, we'll see if it's all that, but also knowing that, it's been in there for 6 years.
Other Eclipse beers before.
Yes, the last one I remember that we had, I think we got the same year as this, but we drank it a few years ago, so it wasn't aged as long in the bottle. That one, I believe, was the Four Roses barrel-aged one. And when we had that was really good. We may have had it on the podcast. I don't think we did, though. I'm more on the side of I don't think we did. Okay, so here you go.
I don't think we did. We ate it with chocolate cake.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Oh, man.
How do you remember that? I think it was for like an anniversary or something, too. It was like a special occasion. I don't know. Much.
That part I don't remember.
Well, I remember busting out because I was like, this should be awesome. And hence the cake as well. Because we don't eat cake that often. All right, so looks like an Imperial Stout.
Yeah.
It's got some bubbles hanging out on the top, medium and large. Swirling it up. It's got some legs, for sure. Ooh, the honey is like...
Very honey.
Super strong in this beer.
And very chocolatey.
Wow, that's weird how strong that honey is. That was like the first thing I smelled. It just kind of jumped right in my nostril.
Yeah. That's
crazy. And then I get some bourbon poking through in the underneath with a little bit of vanilla, some good caramel. And there's a decent amount of woodiness, I feel like.
But a lot of honey.
Yeah, that honey is it's out of control.
It's hard to get past.
Yeah. Huh. I'm hoping the flavor's not like this because I don't want it that driven by honey. There's a little raisin coming through in the nose too at the end. A little bit of raisin. Okay. Taste it.
You get that honey. Yeah,
the honey is very strong. I get a lot of that wood as well that I was talking about. But there's a little bit of that caramel coming through. I do get a very slight coffee note on the finish. It's interesting because it's not tasting to me like a bourbon barrel-aged beer.
No.
Because I feel like the honey has kind of overtaken the bourbon character. The wood from the barrel is still very present, but the bourbon character has been just beaten down by the honey.
Where do you see Heaven Hills?
I remember it's color coded with the
it
the
just
wax.
says it's aged in oak barrels.
Yeah, but that's Heaven Hills barrels.
Oh, okay.
That one's specifically Heaven Hills barrels. Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad, but it's not what you would want it to be based off the description of it.
To be honest, all these beers are just okay.
Oh, I think the Dark Matter and the Mean Old Tom are quite good.
Mean Old Tom's my favorite.
Yeah, those first two, I think in particular, are my favorites. But this is good. It's just, once again, not what you would want. And obviously, I think it's, a product of time. The fact that we had it sitting in the bottle for 6 years. This is what happened to it. The honey just wreaked havoc on the beer, really.
Yeah.
Bourbon's gone. There's a little bit of coffee to it. I don't really taste a whole lot of any chocolatiness in there either.
No, I smelled it, but I'm not tasting it.
Mm-hmm. Lots of wood, too. The honey's bringing the wood with it. It's very strong honey, and then it goes mainly to wood, and then there's a little bit of like a roasted coffee finish to it. And there's a little bit of vanilla in there from the bourbon barrels, a little bit of caramel at play, but yeah, it's very honey.
Mm-hmm. That's the dominant flavor for sure.
Yeah, that's. I was not expecting that. It's also tasting.
Not what I want in my beer.
It's also coming off as kind of thin.
It is thin
on the mouth.
No, I would say I wouldn't guess the ABV.
That's true. I get a little bit of like a heat in the back of my throat, a little bit of a little bit of an astringency in there, taste wise. But yeah, I wouldn't guess the ABV. It's still pretty well hidden. So a lesson here with 12%. The 50/50 Brewing Eclipse beers: fresher is better.
Yeah.
Or whatever age the Four Roses one was when we drank that. I think it was at least 2 years, but yeah. So, okay. So that's it. Now we have to figure out our rankings for these. For me, I don't think it's going to be a hard decision. Yeah, no, it's not. It's pretty easy for me. Do you want me to go first or do you want to go first? Okay. So my number 4 is going to be the Tired Hands Heavy Gem Virga. That's the ale fermented in oak barrels. Not a whole lot of flavors at play. Plus that acetone note is really kind of off-putting. Yeah, so that's my last one. My number 3 is going to be the Eclipse, the Heaven Hills Bourbon Barrel Aged Imperial Stout with Honey by 50/50 Brewing. That Eclipse, like we said, we just covered it. The honey is just taking over. It's very thin. a lot of stuff you want to get out of it has fallen out. And obviously, that's our fault for holding it as long as we did. My number 2 is going to be the Dark Matter Sour Porter by Burley Oak Brewing. That's good. It's very tasty for a sour dark beer. Very nice and easy, approachable. I like it. And my number 1, it's got to be the Mean Old Tom by Maine Beer Company. That's the stout aged on natural vanilla beans. And
mine's going to be the exact same.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Okay. I thought maybe you would drop the Dark Matter down below the Eclipse, but cool. Oh.
I mean, I don't love Dark Matter. For me, it's like number 1, and then a large space, and then number 2, and then a large space, and 3 and 4.
For me, the Dark Matter and the Mean Old Tom are not super far apart. And then there's a big gap.
I can appreciate that it's a good beer. It's just not my style.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate that it's good.
Okay, well, we've got plenty of beers in the cellar.
We sure do.
We'll be doing more stuff. Maybe we're doing more of these cellar beers. We have a lot of the brewery beers, so there'll probably be more Brewery Society beers episodes coming out, especially when we hit Hoarder Society in 2021, because we're going to have a lot of fun stuff coming up with that. And, but contact us if you want to about, episodes you want to hear, or any sort of feedback, brutalbattlepodcast@gmail.com. Do us a favor of giving us ratings and reviews on whatever podcatcher you listen to us through, but iTunes would be the best. And most important thing, word of mouth. Spread the word that you like the podcast and people should listen to it. And then the social media.
Brutal Battle Podcast on Instagram.
And Rebecca is doing a good job with that. I feel like you're posting at least, usually about twice a week.
Yeah, about twice a week.
Definitely once, but usually twice. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone for checking this out. And until next time.
Keep it brutal.
I feel so